Welcome to Sparking Success with Aaron Opalewski. Aaron brings you conversations that spark innovation, cultivate leadership skills, and pave the way for your business success. In each episode, we delve into the dynamic world of business and leadership, exploring strategies, insights, and success stories that fuel your professional journey.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sparking Success. I'm Aaron Opalewski, and this is the show where we talk about action and real-life experience, never about theory. Today, I want to just tell a quick story, and it's based on some posts that I see on LinkedIn and some of the other social sites. And those posts are around, which I get a lot of these, right? Because we're in employment, workforce solutions, recruiting, staffing. So, of course, my algorithm hits me with a lot of stuff around hiring, promotions, wages, compensation, all this kind of stuff. And one of the things that I've been seeing as a trend a lot is posts around, hey, basically, I look at them as a post in a negative context, which probably gets good engagement around never take a promotion without a raise. And I want to say that while I'm going to disagree with that within the story, I understand the general concept. And I think, yes, overall, that is best, that when we promote people and we give them more responsibility, that they have the ability either through a base salary or variable income or bonus or all three, put together, or maybe some other levers, that they have the ability to earn more compensation for making more of an impact. I agree with that. But I want to tell you the story about how I went from recruiting into sales. Specifically when I was working for an organization. And it's just kind of the counterpoint to this. So let's get into it. The counterpoint to this would be, so when I got into recruiting, I had a leader who was very impactful to me. He helped me out a lot. One of the things specifically that he helped me with as someone that was doing engineering recruiting and knew nothing about engineers. I didn't know about mechanical engineering. I didn't know about electrical engineering. I sure didn't know about systems and software engineering. It was like a foreign language to me. It was intimidating. Fortunately, I wanted to be successful. I didn't want to let down the people that gave me an opportunity, and I was going to be fearlessly moving forward on trying to figure it out and making calls and learning on the go. And I laugh because I think there's a part of that is amazing. And then it's always better when you have learned more about what you're doing. So you have so many more opportunities now to learn through YouTube, ChatGPT. Like, you can learn so much really quick now. And it was a little bit different back, 18 years ago. You could still learn, but it was intimidating for me. So one of the things that my leader helped me out with a ton was he would sit down with me at the beginning of the day and he would show me examples. It would only be like 3 or 5, but he wouldn't make the calls for me or anything like that. But he's like, here's what you're working on, and here's 3 good examples of someone that would be qualified for this. And then I would then go on with my day and be looking for other people, but I could use those first 3 that he showed me as a frame. And he did that with me, not every day, but pretty consistently for the first 3 months. Very helpful, very appreciative. That's the main thing that he taught me there. Now, there's a lot of other things in recruiting to learn. And, depending on your mindset, I think you could look at that. It's like, oh, this person didn't teach me a ton. Well, I don't see it that way at all. Like, that helped me out so much because it helped me not build the confidence, but build a framework where I would make the calls. And then it was the actual calls and action and talking to people and asking questions and learning that produced the result of building an acumen on engineering recruiting. But he gave me the frame to take a step forward, and I'm forever appreciative of that. Well, 3 months into that, he ended up leaving and going into the med device field. So he was no longer in recruiting. He was going into med device sales. And so I was without a leader. And 3 months is not a long time in the recruiting industry. And so when I found that out, I don't remember what exact day that was, but that happened. And I wasn't sure what I was supposed to be working on, for like not the first day, but I think like the second or third day, like I didn't know what to work on. and no one was giving me like hand holding step by step directions. So I just looked at our client base and made calls that day to everyone that like we worked with on our team. It was just a team of three. We had one other recruiter, myself, and then our leader that had just left. And my partner and my recruiting partner had been there longer, and so he had a good rhythm of like 4 or 5 different jobs that he was working on filling. And I was still newer, so I had like one or two, and I just decided, well, I'm going to call the client base. And I did that, within the first week, and I ended up getting an opportunity to work on a couple different requirements. And a couple of the clients asked me to come out, and I said yes, and no one told me not to go. And so that just then continued. And over the next 5 months, I basically did that sales job and my recruiting job from the recruiting chair. Now, go back to early episodes, but I didn't receive a raise for that. My salary at the time was $33,000 a year. I'm dating myself a bit. I'm sure it's not still the same, but at the time it's 33,000 a year. I don't know it specifically, but I believe in my first year of recruiting, I made like $38,760. It was something around that. And well, that isn't anything to like flex about or brag about. Even back then, that wasn't a ton of money. Man, what I learned in that first year was invaluable. I would never trade it. You couldn't have paid me $1 million to not have that experience, because I got so much more from it than just that $39,000. So over that 5 months, there was no raise. Yes, I was making my recruiting commissions, but there was no raise or extra money or anything like that. But what there was experience. I was given an opportunity, not really given an opportunity. It's just no one was doing it. And I felt like, well, someone needs to do it. And I'm still going to figure out how to be successful. And I have a little confidence now from what I learned the first 3 months. And I know kind of who to call. And I want to be in sales. And so what's good about this? Well, there's no one telling me not to make calls to our clients and start to ask for requirements and ask for meetings. And so for 5 months, I did that. I grew my placements at that company, and ultimately got promoted in August of that year at about 8.5 months. And it wasn't till then that I received a whopping raise of $3,000 on my salary, but my commissions went up. And again, I'm joking. I'm very grateful for it, but it took 5 months to get that raise. But back to what I was saying, I got so much more than money. And if I didn't have that 5 months, man, do you know what I got in that 5 months? I got courage. I got a lot of recognition, which ultimately, yeah, you want money from it, but a lot of people respected that I just kind of kept going on it. I got confidence. I got exposure to things that I wouldn't have got exposed to that early if that didn't happen. The gifts that I got from that, the opportunity that God put me in there was so impactful to the rest of my life, that you couldn't. I guess there probably is some dollar amount on it, but like again, like you couldn't have given me $1 million in that situation. You couldn't have given me $10 million or $100 million at that time. Again, I don't know. Maybe if you then took that $100 million and bought Bitcoin, that would be a lie at this point. But like, I hope you get the concept. It was so impactful. And if I would have sat there and said, I'm doing this and I deserve a raise, without just rolling up my sleeves, doing the work, and say, you know what, I'm going to run through this wall. I'm going to reach the numbers I got to do. And I'm just going to show people with my results and my actions and how I show up every day. If I would have asked for that, maybe they would have told me to stop, focus on recruiting, or I might not have got promoted as fast. So I understand the concept of when you get more responsibility, you deserve a raise. But those things usually come in like 6% raises, all this kind of stuff. You got to understand, I'm just going to be real with you. Like, yeah, well, I made, you know, $38,000 in, my first year recruiting. And then the next year I made even less because I worked for a couple months and left. That's all true. But by 2011, I was in a situation where I believe I made $172,000, in 2011 as a 25 or 26 year old, and then from there, my income started to grow exponentially. And so, yeah, you don't get that 6% raise, but in my situation, you're in a situation where it's like, don't just look at what's happening in the moment. Like, are you getting tools that allow you to earn immense amounts more of income? And that's why I shared a few of those numbers. It's not to, I'm not doing it to brag or anything like that, because I'm just not. I'm doing it to explain, like, hey, that's always going to outpace if you got a 6% raise every year because you're doing a little bit more. So I agree that that is probably the best thing to do is to get someone a raise. But if you have an opportunity, I'd recommend you if you're with a good company that is going to promote or acknowledge growth, or it's like this can lead to good things, the increase on income as well as responsibility. I would suggest you consider it. And I really think it just comes down to where you're at. There's some companies that could take advantage of that, but I think there's a lot of great companies out there that want to grow, and there's opportunities to grow everywhere. And I think more than not, that will be acknowledged. And you might not get a 6% or 7% or whatever the percentage raise on that is right away. But man, if that pops 6 months to a year to 2 years later, and your comp's up 100% because you kind of took a leap of faith on that and you learned a lot during the process, man, like, do the math on that. That's a lot better. So that's just the other side of the perspective. And that was true for me. Uh, I won't go through a bunch of other stories, but I know I've shared before, like, so Fletcher, who's our president at Spark Talent, we've worked together for over 15 years. He started with us in recruiting at my first company at $10 an hour. We didn't promote him for 3.5 years, and he had not made six figures yet. I think it was just under that, and we really should have promoted him. And he was running some accounts for about a year before we started Spark, and it wasn't until we started Spark when he went into sales. But where we held him back on that a little bit, and he could have looked at some of those posts. Again, this stuff wasn't happening back in the day, but this is where I get scared with this stuff, is people are going to miss this side of it. And so I hope you hear this and listen to this and consider this depending on where you're at. Well, I was making like 80 or 90,000, in a year where he was working some accounts, and probably should have been comp more for what he was doing. Yes, but he learned a ton during that period. In the first year that we started Spark, he doubled his income. He made like $160,000, $170,000 in his first year at Spark. Now, we put him in the role, and he was ready for it. He had learned a lot. So that's just one other example of where it's like, well, you do the math on that. If we would have given him like a 6-7% raise, yeah, he probably still would have done well and then grown his income. But I'm just saying, like, well, I lean towards, yeah, give the raise when you give more responsibility. I wouldn't totally discount taking an opportunity and the other things that you can get from that, the experience, the acumen, the confidence, the ability to kind of, practice in real time, as long as eventually, well, not eventually, I think, as long as it's going to lead you into an opportunity where, hey, what's good? What's a green flag on this? Man, if someone asks you to do that for 3 months and gives you a tangible roadmap, and that tangible roadmap, they want you to cross that, and then they're going to promote you, then I can't, like, okay, what's the details of the promotion? But if it's something where you could really start to grow your comp and career, I don't think that's necessarily bad. Do I think that's best? Like, no, if you get more responsibility, I think it is best to try and nudge the comp along. But not every company may be in that scenario, and they might want to be doing some of that as part of their process on evaluating if you're ready for a promotion or to interview. And again, I think the most extreme examples of people growing their comp that I've seen, for myself, the one I share with Fletcher, some other instances. I have some friends where this has been the same for them. I, I, I have more stories of where when people delayed that gratification for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, where they grew immensely. Then the scenarios where people come into conversations and it's a mindset thing more than anything. They have a negative mindset around like, well, I'm not getting this, I'm not getting that, and they just kind of like set themselves up for failure and what that opportunity could be. So I hope that resonates with someone. I just wanted to share the other perspective because I don't fully disagree. I understand where those concepts are coming, but it's the same people that tell you, oh, you should basically job hop every 2 years because you can get a slight raise here or there. And it's like where I just completely disagree with that concept. But it's these same people that want to come at this from a completely negative lens. And I'm just saying like, hey, there's some really good situations with some good companies that are focused on growth, but they want to see it a little bit before they take the leap of faith on you. And not all those are bad. And I've over and over seen it lead to some extreme pops in people's ability to grow their career and income. So just a different perspective. It happens to be my personal experience. Again, we don't do that, internally anymore. But there was a period in time, again, with Fletcher, where we just didn't have the resources and we needed to see it a little bit more before, we could do that. And I guess that's semi-true. It was more tied to like when we started Spark, and I could just make a decision on the fly. Well, the second we had Spark, I just made that decision day one. It's probably one of the best decisions I ever made because not only did Fletcher's career take off within that, but it really helped us launch Spark and take it off on a big stage. So I hope that's impactful to you. I hope it just gets you thinking a little bit about that. I'm not saying that you don't deserve a raise if you get more responsibility, but I just want to give you that perspective. And it's really about evaluating the opportunity, the company, the people that you're talking to. If you're asked to do that, it may not be negative. I hope you don't just look at one of those videos and completely write off taking a step forward, because you might miss a life-changing opportunity. Thank you. Share this with one person if it was helpful, and have a great day.